You found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. In today's episode, we're going to talk about and ask the question, is OG Anunoby a target for the Bulls this offseason? The Heat are finals bound, and the NBA is investigating ref Eric Lewis. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. And even though my very own co-host, Pat, the designer, decided to go King Von on the intro there, we're going to go ahead and jump into
Wait, what? How'd I go King Von?
The shooting.
It's King My bad. I thought I was going John Morant.
Well, no, see, John Morant doesn't actually shoot, so it's never.
Oh, it would have been more like this. It would have been more like we in for a good episode, boy.
Oh man. So Pat, first topic for today, OG Anunoby. So you found an article. It was written by what was the quote on that again for me, Pat?
This was from NBA Analysis Network, talking about kind of could the Bulls be in on OG Anunoby? They talked about kind of how OG had a real bounce back season for the Toronto Raptors, and basically with Toronto kind of moving on from the, I don't know if they're even moving on from the core, but it felt like they wanted to rebuild at the deadline last season. And so now they're kind of just, taking that on to the offseason, that they're assuming that they're not going to want to bring everybody back. Like you said before we got started, they basically got 5 dudes on this team that all have the same strengths and weaknesses from the bench to the starting lineup. It's actually pretty hilarious when you look at it. So they talked about the Bulls possibly being a trade candidate for OG Anunoby. Now, they didn't come up with a trade package in this, but basically, would you make the move on OG Anunoby? Would you give up assets that we currently have for OG Anunoby, who last season did miss some time due to injury, but ended up playing and starting in 67 games? In those appearances, he averaged 17 points per game, 16.8 to be exact, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1.9 steals. I like the defense. He shot 47.6% from the floor overall and knocked down 38.7% of his 3-point attempts.
So here's what we'll say on this. He's 6'7", has a 7'2" wingspan. Automatically, it puts him in AK's territory.
He's an AK guy.
He's an AK guy. OG Anunoby still only 25 years old. And the question that I have when it comes to that is, what would it take to get him? That is I can see the interest from AK. I can even see the need for what he can bring defensively, and even what he brings offensively. Yeah, he's not he doesn't have the offensive firepower of DeMar DeRozan or anything like that, but I can see why on this roster he could be a target. The bigger question that I have is, how do we get it there? Because DeMar for OG, I know a lot of Bulls fans are going to say that it's not happening. Toronto does not want DeMar DeRozan back. It's not going to happen. And so when you come off of that portion of it, that's where the questions start arising for me. And again, 25 years old, so it's not like they're just going to try to sell him away for anything just to get him off the roster. I just don't know if the Bulls have what Toronto may want. But then again, we don't even know. Nobody know. No, everybody has this thought that Toronto wants to break up all the players with this similar skill set and body type, but nobody has a pulse on what they actually want to get back in return. Nobody knows.
And I think that's the biggest issue, right? Like if they want to break this up, they got a lot of good assets, right? You're not going to get it for nothing. It's not like they're going to trade OG Anunoby and nobody else is going to want him except the Chicago Bulls. Exactly. I think that there's a lot of teams that would be very interested in what OG Anunoby can bring to that team. To me, right, is that where you start to talk about possibly a sign and trade with Ayo Dosunmu and or Kobe White? We know that they want to get a little bit more size in their guard room. I do know that, right? Fred VanVleet probably still going to be there moving forward, but is an undersized point guard and actually is probably more of a shooting guard, seeing as how he shoots like 40% from the field and 38% from the 3-point line. So he's chucking up most of the threes, which actually went down a little bit more this season too. But I think that kind of you might be talking about a package where you're including Io and or Kobe White, 2-point guards that have a little bit of size, and maybe you're talking about. I mean, is there a Vooch scenario in there if they lose Jakob Poeltl?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, Jakob's an unrestricted free agent, but I think they're going to do everything in their power to keep Jakob Poeltl. You said a Io sign and trade. I mean,
because Io's not going to make that much. His season,
he's not going to make that much.
So you're probably talking about him in the $3 to $4 million, $5 million maybe range.
Yeah, so you still would have to make up about $14 million. And then here's what I'll say: OG Anunoby's contract. He's still under contract for 2 more seasons, that next season and the season after, and he's only making about 18.5 per. So that's not a bad contract for what OG Anunoby brings at all. So it's just matching that. So that's where it gets difficult at, because we're so top heavy on contracts. Everything else is just so low other than that. I mean, unless, I mean, like you said, a Kobe, even Kobe's probably going to be around 10 or 12.
Is there a package scenario where they get a young player who they're hoping has a bright future in it, a Kobe White and or a Io DeSumo, although Kobe I think comes with a little bit more money, and maybe they're willing to send you something else back to shore up that center position? Because I don't think Toronto's looking to take a step back this season. I think that they believe in the players that they have. They believe in Scotty Barnes, believe in Pascal Siakam. I think they still want to take a step forward. I think they just didn't have the perfect mix to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on how they look at Kobe. And then at that point, I don't know if, because we've already said the Bulls, they don't have a lot of money. And you at that point, like, I don't know if they'd be willing to give up Kobe in that deal, because he may be their starting point guard next season just by the nature they don't have a lot of money to do anything else with. So I listen, I don't have the deal in my mind right now that will work out for them. But I mean, as a target, I'm not against it as a target. It's just, how do you make that work?
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't know.
Is there no scenario they want DeMar back?
I just
do not. No scenario. I don't think there's ever going to be no scenario where they wouldn't want DeMar back.
I mean, hey, bro.
I think that they would want DeMar back. I don't know if they would be like, let's do DeMar for OG straight up. Like, I think you would have to like work something out where they send a couple of players back. We send probably an Io DeSumo or a Kobe, something, right, where I think that because realistically, right, this team is going to be Pascal, Scotty Barnes, maybe VanVleet.
True, but the only issue, so if you include DeMar DeRozan in the deal, because he makes $10 million more than what OG Anunoby's making, then at that point you're starting to cut in. I mean, technically, but I think Thaddeus Young is an unrestricted free agent. I mean, Thad makes $8 million, but I just listen. I mean, and then don't overlook the fact you can always get a third team involved as well. So.
Now, I mean, or is there we go big on this? Maybe AK's back in his Batman status. Hopefully, AK, let's get that together. Do we do a sign and trade with them where they send us back Jakob Poeltl on a signed contract? We just say, hey, Vooch, have a blessed day. Yeah, I mean, is there a scenario where we work something out like that? We send you to Miami.
You're being real 2K-ish right now, bro. Real 2K-ish. Real 2K-ish right there. I mean, hey, listen, I think if both teams are motivated to get it done, but my thing is 25 years old, even if you get the contracts to work out, are they going to want a draft pick? Because if they do, I don't think AK is giving up any more draft picks.
I don't think that you end up moving on from any picks. I think AK is going to hold on to his picks. I think now's the time. Here's the long-term scenario, right? Realistically, now's the time where AK wants to start to hold on to the picks because you're a competitive team again. He got you competitive. You're going to win 30 to 40 games every season. You're going to be fighting for an 8 through whatever it is, 8 to 10 through 7 or 6, right? Now you're talking about if you run it back, whatever that is, now we start to try and find that Nikola Jokic by just adding a piece every single season.
Here's the thing. I know the answer, and the answer should be no here, but for the nature of conversation, because I know some people are going to ask and we didn't bring it up. Because OG Anunoby has a similar skill set to P. Will, would they be willing to include P. Will? Because you're getting a player that maybe you still think P. Will has a little bit of a higher ceiling, but you're basically getting a player that you hope is P. Will's kind of going to turn into. Are they willing at that? But do you think AK is it enough in that scenario where AK may be willing to include P. Will in that deal? I don't think so, but we did. To have a thorough conversation, I think we need to explore it at least a little bit.
I think the reason we haven't said it is because I don't believe he would, unless you're getting that second piece back. That is right. Like in that scenario, then you're talking about sending one of your big three, probably.
Yeah, for sure.
And P. Will. Am I getting back Fred VanVleet, who can play the point guard position, although that defensive backcourt would be terrible? Am I getting back a OG Anunoby and a Jakob Poeltl? Am I getting back right? Like I think it would be what's coming with OG, because at that point, then they got to make money work.
Does Chris Boucher and OG Anunoby tickle your fancy when it comes to that?
Well, let's never say tickle my fancy again.
Tickle my fancy.
That's wow. That's all right. I'm uncomfortable. Does
it's not like I said gooch out here. Fancy. What are we talking about?
I thought you just said the same thing twice. I would say that does perk my interest, but again, I don't know if it perks AK's interest. And I think that also depends on what you want this iteration of the team to be. Does AK really want this iteration of the team to be a team that's trying to go for a championship every season? Yeah. Or does he want this team to be competitive, like I said, very much like Denver, until they find their next superstar, or they believe that P. Will turns into their next superstar? Because remember, it's not just Jokic being great that does this. It's Jamal Murray becoming Jamal Murray. That took some time.
Yeah,
that took some time. So Denver was willing to wait. AK was willing to wait in that scenario, and I believe Jamal Murray was an AK pick.
Yes, I think mistaken. He may have been AK's first draft.
Might have been AK's first pick over there. So I think that you're talking about a scenario where AK has seen, I'm just gonna wait on a guy, even if he has the injury, even if it doesn't work out the way we planned. Work out in the long run. He's probably gonna wait for P. Will for a long time.
I mean, that's why I said I did preface it by saying this is just to have a thorough conversation, because I think we both understand P. Will isn't going to be included in anything like that. But next up, we're going to talk about the Miami Heat making it to the finals. And does that give AK a built-in excuse? Maybe. But before we talk about that, I got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is Game Time. You forget about planning tickets months in advance. Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the game. Buy the tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, Pat. One of the bigger concerns here, right, that we have around Bulls Nation is the excuses, right? Because we've gotten a lot of them in the last 18 months, a lot of excuses. And the Miami Heat have now made it to the NBA Finals. They've won the Eastern Conference Finals. Can't wait to that series. But you brought up a great point before we started recording. That's why it's on the docket. Does this give AK, if we do run it back, a built-in excuse that they had the lead on the team that won the conference?
Of course it does. Of course it does. Of course it does. We felt good about this team going into the second half of the season. We were 14-9, and we were 3 minutes away from beating the team that ended up going to the NBA Finals. Tell me that's not what you expect to hear from AK. I think that it is. Here's the thing. AK was going to do this anyway. AKME was doing this anyway. But is this something that makes them feel better about themselves? Of course it is. And so I won't be surprised if we hear this at all starting next season when we've run it back, because at the beginning of next season, we already know it's just going to be, that's what we looked at everything that we had on the team and we understand what's going on with Lonzo. Hopefully, we wish him the best, but we were 3 minutes away from going to the next round and being in the playoffs with Patrick Beverley, who probably won't be on the team.
The fact of the matter is that is something that could realistically happen. Now, I really do hope that AK has more awareness. Like we said, it really did seem like he really did think at some point Lonzo was going to come back this season, which brings its own issues. And I hope that he realizes that, the team, we played close with the Miami Heat team. Cool. We also beat the Milwaukee Bucks last season. Cool. You got all that. But, we need improve. We need some. And the thing is, even running it back with bringing another point guard, bringing some shooting, you still need to do something, right? And we're not in a position where we can run it back with the exact same roster. There are going to be some pieces that are gone. So it really does, with the players that do leave, what you replace them with, to me, is going to be telling to what AK's the presser before training camp opens is going to be, right? We're going to say, hey, we added a shooter. We feel like he's a knockdown shooter. We feel like he's going to be able to stretch and open the floor up for Zach to do some more things. That's what I want to hear. I don't want to just hear, hey, we ran it back because we were close to beating the Miami Heat with 3 minutes left. Add something. Give us a bone, AK. Like my episode yesterday with you being out was literally... I'm done. Take it.
That's all you. No, keep doing your point. Finish your point out.
I have no idea anymore. Why did he hit the
bone, AK?
And then I was like, wait a second.
Give us a bone, AK. And then what were you saying after that?
Throw us a bone, AK.
Yep. What were you saying after that?
Add something to the damn team, AK. That's what I was about to say. Add something to the damn team.
Look what you've done to Haize, AK. Look what you've done to him. No, I agree with you, right? And I talked about this. I think that adding shooting does a lot. That's why the OG trade interests me. That's why a lot of these trades for
OG
guys that
trade shooting,
well, just from three.
Okay,
he shot 38% from three. That's all I care about. Because here's the thing: when we talked about this all season, when the ball was kicked out to the 3-point line, there was no confidence that anybody that caught that ball was going to knock it down, except Patrick Williams and Zach
They may not even take it. That's the thing. Much less knock it down. There was no confidence there. You know how many wide open threes Ayo Dosunmu had and was like, oh, no, I'm finna go drive it in and two people in the paint looking right at me. That was frustrating.
Well, I'd be okay with those because he seemed to always knock down a contested layup. But my God, if that lane was
wide
open
layups
right over the top of the backboard. But no, I think that here's the thing at the end of the day that, to me, you have to add to this team no matter what. It's like you said, it's the guys that all you do is take those shots. The guys that when the ball is in my hand, I'm pulling this mug. Because to me, you didn't have enough of that last season until the second half of the season, and you're still only talking about three guys. You're talking about Kobe, Patrick Williams, and Zach LaVine. And that's it. And that's a problem. You don't have guys who have a willingness to shoot. Here's the funny thing about the offense that the Bulls are running. It creates open looks. But you have to take the shot and make the shot realistically. But you at least have to take the shot.
You mean we don't get points just by generating open looks? Who needs to shoot? We don't have any. You know
what I mean? Open looks are generated, but my God, if you let that ball go when you're open, it might go in. I don't know if you noticed or not.
Hey, man, listen, I just came up the perfect offseason. This is going to be what the offseason is. We re-sign Vooch, we re-sign Kobe, we get Derrick Rose at the vet minimum, we sign a shooter for about $5 to $6 million. And AK is going to come back and be like, we add some shooter. We brought back, Derrick Rose, who formerly won an MVP.
$6 million ain't bad for a shooter. I'm not
bro, like literally, that's going to be the offseason, bro. We just, and you know what? And then we're all going to be happy until we realize that Derrick Rose is starting at power forward.
Oh my God, dang it. Dang it. Realistically, though, that's a tough statement, bro. That's tough. Starting at power forward, bro.
Starting at power forward.
I really want to see some different looks with Derrick down low. Here's the best part about Billy Donovan, bro. The only thing that he immediately shut down and never tried it at all.
Derrick what?
I said Derrick Rose.
No, before that. What did you say?
I don't even know what I said.
He said Derek down low. Keep it going, brother.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, I don't know about that. Hold on. I'm challenging that. Red flag on the play. I'm challenging that one. I'm challenging that one. I need the green light. Derek, I don't know about that. Y'all let me know in the chat on that one. I'm throwing a challenge flag on that one, bro. Let me know if that was successful or unsuccessful. Hey, that's the new thing on the show. I just made that up. You can challenge one record scratch episode.
Episode, fair enough.
We
fair
usually
enough.
have about 7 of them. But anyway, I think that here's a real question, right? Say you go out and get a shooter with the team you had last season and you add your backup point guard, if you believe Kobe White's our starting point guard. Does that improve your team 3 or 4 games? Because realistically, then you could be the 5th seed.
It depends on how Kobe really does adapt to being in the lineup where everything's not going to go through, unless Billy Donovan changes the offense, right?
Yeah.
I love Kobe, and I do think that Kobe's what he's shown in decision-making, playmaking, this is the best time that the best he's probably will ever look as an actual point guard, but even then, he's not a natural point guard. So if you're going to run everything through him, okay. But otherwise, here's the thing. If we ran a system similar to Denver, whereas we're running everything through Vooch, I would say bring in Kobe to the starting lineup, and absolutely that works out because then you're not expecting Kobe or any of the guards to be your primary ball handler. But we all know Billy Donovan isn't going to make that change.
Yeah, I do know he's probably not going to make that change. So.
There you go.
I don't know. That's tough. It's tough. I think that it does improve you, but I don't think.
It improves you.
It keeps you competitive. That's all it is. It keeps you competitive. And unless Zach LaVine takes another step, which we've been waiting on him to take for 2 years now. I
mean, it's hard to step when you don't have a need to step on for a lot of that time.
I knew that was coming. All right, let's go to the next topic.
Right. So next up, we're going to talk. You're using the soundboard today for real.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Next up, we're going to get into the NBA's investigation into Eric Lewis. Now, Eric Lewis is the ref that Patrick Beverley had a run-in with the camera, which is still one of the funniest. Like, that was before we even knew he was going to be a Bull, bro. That was hilarious when he pulled out the camera and got teched up.
He said to get the girl who had the camera, she worked for the Lakers that gave him the camera, got in trouble for that.
Really?
Yeah, because he shouldn't have took the camera from her.
I mean, yeah, he shouldn't have took it from her, but I mean, it's
but
an
it ain't
NBA
like
player
he was
in
like,
front of you.
Hey, but what he said, yeah, I knocked Shorty over and took the camera from her. Try to make her feel better, like make it better for it. Like, dang, Shorty, Pat Bev then got you fired out here. That's crazy.
That's crazy. But hey, this ref also having burner accounts. Like, we haven't really seen a mass investigation to a ref like this. I don't think since the Tom Donahue thing. Like,
yeah.
What is it? And keep in mind, this is a season where the officiating has been called to the carpet a lot by us, by other teams. Like, there was a lot of questionable officiating this season. What do you make of this investigation, Pat?
Here's what I'll say about this. One, the fact that there's a burner account called Cutliff Blair, at Cutliff Blair, that all it does is retweet praise of Eric Lewis. All it does is retweet praise of Eric Lewis and cheer for the Celtics. So let that marinate for a second. But the fact that we've asked for this all season and it's only come to light after we've almost gotten to the NBA Finals is I have a problem with. Because if I'm not mistaken, he has reffed playoff games, has he not?
This year, I don't know.
I believe Eric Lewis has reffed playoff games this season. I may be wrong on that, but I thought I saw his name on a couple of early playoff games, not deep into the playoffs. But here's my issue with all of that, right? He's a guy that changes the outcome for people's careers. I know people think that, oh, it's just a game, it's just this, it's just that. No, it's not just a game, because there's certain things where, hey, if they win this game, this guy completes whatever achievement there is in his contract, he gets a bonus. Or if they win this game, they get to move on to the next round, or they get to move on to the playoffs, right? How many games are we talking about where, right, the LA Lakers might not be in the play-in tournament if they're they win that game in Boston, right? Because that's one more win added to the docket. Again, the game where Pat Bev comes out with the camera, all that blah blah blah. And how many of those games are there where that actually is happening? I think that that's the issue that you really have to look into here. And we've talked about this all season. I talked about this with Donovan Mitchell's 70-point game, with how many countless games that the tide has turned based on what seems to be some of the most hilarious officiating that you could ever see, to the point where I said, are NBA refs worse than NFL refs?
And it looks like Eric Lewis, the last game that he officiated actually was game 1 of the Western Conference Finals.
I thought so. So you're talking about a guy who officiated 2 rounds of the playoffs. 2 rounds of the playoffs. How many calls did he make in favor of Boston if he did any Boston games? How many calls? Because his whole family is a big Boston family. They love the Boston Celtics. They take Christmas pictures in Boston Celtics jerseys. How many times? And I'm not saying that refs shouldn't be allowed to be fans. That's just not the case. Because why would you ref a sport you're not a fan of? That's just idiotic. But there has to be a line of professional courtesy where I can clearly see that it doesn't affect how you're calling a game. And I've watched multiple Boston Celtics games where I can look at it and go, ooh, where's that at? How we making that call, or how we not making that call? And he's the guy on the other end of it. Now, I could do the same thing with Scott Foster. I could do the same thing with heck, you know who the Bulls enemy number 1 is we don't have a pitcher in here no more. Tony Brothers.
Yeah,
we ain't got the Tony Brothers pitcher no more. He's enemy number 1. The Bulls won 2 games, I believe, with Tony Brothers reffing this season. There's no way that you can see that much of a skew when one ref is leading the way and not look into it. That's a problem.
I feel you there. Yeah, I mean, listen, shout out to the NBA for finding it, doing the investigation. Technically, there is no rule against referees or anybody having burner accounts, but I do think that we're going to start seeing maybe that change. Maybe there's going to start being do you think that is probably the next, at some point, will the NBA start regulating social media in some shape, form, or fashion?
I doubt it. I mean, here's the thing: at the end of the day, just burner better. Like, he had his real birth date, his real, I think his address, not his address, but like the city that his house is in is on there. He had just crazy information on there where it was like,
honestly, he was probably thinking, listen, I'm a ref. Is anybody really going to be looking into this?
100%.
Yeah.
But what you don't know is the Twitter police are always watching. But I don't know. How are you going to crack down on the social media realistically when it is a way that the players that are coming into the league live? Before they get to the NBA, they're all over social media. You know what I mean? So I don't think that there's going to be a regulation. I think that there's kind of already a standard that you have to have set, and a ton of companies put standards in place.
Yeah.
Where, hey, maybe don't go on there and absolutely bash the brand that you work for. Or don't go on there and openly bash the referees. We don't do that around here. There's a protocol that is in place. And when you do that, you see people get fined. And I'm fine with all of that, because you know what that means? I'm not going to lie to you. My favorite thing from this season was this about Eric Lewis. Maybe it was Tony Brothers. Who was Van Vliet going off on?
That was Tony Brothers, I believe.
Was that Tony Brothers?
Yeah.
Because that was funny, actually, because he said Tony Brothers cussed him out. But my favorite thing is, right, like, I'm so sick of you, I'm willing to give up $15,000. That's how done with how you're officiating the game I am. If that doesn't send a message to the NBA that, hey, you have a problem in your league. How many players did that this season? I felt like we heard about players doing that all the time.
Agreed. I mean, this was a season of people really being tired of officiating.
Yeah,
a lot throughout the whole NBA, and I think because of that, you've seen it's going to be some investigations done, whether we're made privy to all of them or not. But best believe there's going to be some people that are looked into. That's for dang sure.
Is there a way to robot ref?
Robot ref.
I know it's it's dang near impossible with how the robot umps is in baseball, right? Because that's just a zone. But is there a way to
By the way, hold on, pause for a second. Let's shout out to Tony Brothers making a return to the show.
Tony Brothers, welcome back.
Making a return to
Good
the
to
show.
see you in the corner there, Tony. Always keeping it frightening. Tony Brothers looks like he bites unsuspecting children. That's how Tony Brothers looks, bro. I swear, bro. Tony Brothers looks like he uses his teeth to cut in Derek White's hairline. That's how Tony Brothers looks. Tony Brothers take a real bite out of crime. You know what I mean? That's how Tony Brothers is reffing some of these games. But no, my point at the end of all of this, my point at the end of all is right. Like, is there a way to take certain aspects of the game out of the referee's hands? Right, goaltending, charges. Where is his foot over the line? Is his foot not over the line? Where all you have to determine is he moving or not? Is it right? Like I don't know if there's a way to do it. There's people that are smarter than me, but I just feel like the calls have gotten so bad that you need to start to take something away from the human element of it.
I think having a ref in the booth or having something that reviews calls, I think once they get it more streamlined to where it's correct, because keep in mind, a lot of reasons why we don't have more challenges, things like this, they don't want to slow the game down too much. But I think as technology can be relied on a little bit more, but still having the kind of the human element to review whatever the technology is telling them, and that just becomes a faster process. I do think that eventually we'll get there. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do think eventually we'll get there.
I would love an XFL style where, like, as soon as a play happens, I don't know if you've seen the XFL at all, but as soon as a play happens,
the XFL for actually being a good football league, by the way.
Bro, it's not bad. Like, I swear, I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, I actually like a lot of the stuff that they did. Yeah. But like, as soon as a play happens, whether it's a good play or not, Dean Blandino, I think that's who was doing it. God dang it, Tony, get out of here, Tony. Tony, get out of here. Trying to sneak up and call a charge out of nowhere, man. You gotta watch this guy.
He's about to tee you up.
Hey, bro, he's about to tee me up. Him tonight, they there cussing out Jason Tatum back and forth. Him and Tatum was going at it. But no, like in the XFL, there was literally as soon as a play ended, boom, we're reviewing it. We're trying to check and see if there's anything that can be overturned, even if it's good or bad. And then whatever it is, we're going the other way with it. I bet we're doing this, or there's somebody to make a decision that second. I would like to see that in more sports, not just the NBA, but the NBA, of course, because we're talking about it here, where not to say every foul is reviewable, but there shouldn't be this, we're going to the table. Because then it is subject to whatever refereeing crew you have.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the NBA is going to continue to evolve it, I think, for sure. And I think that all the notice on officiating this season is going to not force something immediately, but if that continues, we're definitely going to see some not wholesale, but we're going to see some major changes happen at some point.
Let's hope so, man. Let's hope so, because the refereeing was bad this season. Yeah, follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love as always. Tony! Get out of here, Tony. Sick of you.
Yeah, you guys can follow me at CEO Haize, CEO Haize. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls, man. We'll see you guys tomorrow, y'all. Peace.
Peace.